I realized I was muted again, but I fixed it this time before I did my intro. Anyway, oh, Hanaki! Did you know that our souls are connected by fate? What do you know? I'm Yuno Hanaki from Production Kawaii's Hanamizuki. Good evening. I look very small compared to my chair. Hold on. I need to be a little bit bigger. Okay. That's better. I was a little bit small from when I was hanging out with Mimi yesterday. But anyway, hi! Hello, hello, hello! Been a bit since I streamed on my channel. Well, at least compared to like the usual like daily presentation of the Buno Banaki content. Yesterday's content was on Mimi's channel. And before that I had my morning stream, which means I wasn't streaming at my usual evening time slot either. So it's been a bit. Were you guys okay without with 48 hours of the not usual Buno Banaki experience? I hope so. More accurate size. Shut up! Shut up! Stop it! Anyways. Guess I need to watch the Mimi VOD? Yeah, I was on Mimi's channel yesterday. She gave me some pointers on things to get to wear for the Gap Moe and for other situations. I wanted to wear one for this stream, but I realized that talking about poetry in one of those outfits wasn't the best idea. We'll save it for a different kind of stream, different kind of vibe. At least for today, I should probably look more nerdy since we're talking about writing, which is a very nerdy subject. The last drop of Unonium? What? Please. You still had your Unonium, it was just on another channel. You had to get it from a different source, and it was also combined with Mamium. But it was fun. I got some ideas for outfits you guys want to see, ideas for things I can commission in the future, once my budget is no longer in a chokehold with everything that I'm doing. So I have ideas for things I can commission, things that I can purchase from the shop. Yeah. Hanaki! So, what else was there? There was also the Matsuri. The Matsuri happened on Wednesday. If you guys didn't catch it, I was included in both the song with Hanamizuki. I was included in the medley that Kaya uploaded separately. And then also, there was a sneak preview of a future Hanamizuki upload! Woo! I'm not sure when the full version is going to be finished, but that should be getting uploaded soon. It was a cover of the song Hanamizuki. I'm sure you guys might remember, Lua has sung it in some of her karaoke a few times. She recommended it to us almost immediately after we all joined the Slack and was like, you guys should sing it because it's literally Hanamizuki. And we were like, yeah, no, it made sense. The last full Matsuri with Yuno Kaya-ran, indeed. It is very, very bittersweet. But it's not the last you're going to see of Hanamizuki as a trio. There will be more things to expect this month, but I won't get too into details. But yeah, if you missed it, let me pull up the link to the Matsuri and to the medley, because I know that part's uploaded already. But I am not sure when the full version of Hanamizuki is going to be up. So I cannot link that yet. But as soon as it's up, I will obviously be like sharing it everywhere and making sure you guys know about it. Let me go to Kaya's channel. Don't cry. It's okay. You don't have to cry yet. There. Yoshi. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so here's the Matsuri. Let me make sure it doesn't share the time code. Because you should watch the whole thing. Not just the part with Hanamizuki. You should make sure to watch the whole thing if you're able. So there's that. And then here is the link to the medley. If you want just the medley. We as a group requested that Kaya make a video of just the medley because we had a feeling people were really going to like it. And it was nice to see that justified when everyone in chat was like, Kaya, you're going to upload this separately, right? You're going to share this separately, right? That's why she had it at the ready. We asked her to make sure that the medley part was like separated so it could be shared. I'm glad you guys liked it. At the end of the Mod City VOD, you can see the preview for the Hanamizuki trio cover. And like I said, that will be coming up whenever the video is properly finished. We're still waiting on that. I'm looking forward to it. The fact that it was at 480p made the mix quality a little bit crunchy, but the actual mix is very, very pretty. You guys are gonna like it. I promise you that. So look forward to it. Okay. So that is plugged. I guess since I'm plugging things, I posted something very funny this morning, in case you guys didn't see it, because I didn't share it on the community tab. I just posted the thing, but I shared something very funny, very silly. There's a funny little video that's going to premiere on Sunday around our usual stream time. Brain soup? No, not brain soup. I'm not talking about that. You don't have to drag that here. I'm not linking the voice tweet. Who do you think I am? Please. Anyways, I'm ignoring brain soup. That's a Twitter exclusive. You can leave that on Twitter. That's fine. It doesn't need to be here. But, yeah, so I am posting a cover of Bibidi Ba, which is a song by Hoshimachi Suisei. That cover will be premiering on August 4th, so 2 days from now. Sunday. Well, Sunday Onigashima time. So I hope you look forward to that. There will be an after-party stream. It'll probably just go up closer to when the stream's actually going to start. We get Yuno in a dress. Yeah, you can tell by the thumbnail, huh? Yeah, we've got Yuno in a very princess-looking gown. Indeed, this is very true. But I hope you look forward to it. We'll have a brief little after-party stream. There's not too much to talk about with this one, but I figured I would just make Sunday be an after-party little chat. And then we'll go into the rest of the week proper after that. Lots of things going on this month. This month is so busy. You know, not in her kimono. I know, right? That's the thing. There's a bit of, like, a gap seeing me in things that are not, like, traditional Japanese garments. Seeing me in other clothes is so much fun. We had Yuno in tons of outfits yesterday, too. Yes, that we did. I have been, I kept track a little bit of the ones that you guys are the most excited about. I might pick out some for myself as well. Thank you also, since they were technically offline donations, I will thank you guys now for the donations that you gave yesterday for the shopping allowance. Thank you very much. I will be using that money specifically to get outfits. I might coordinate a couple with Mamie for future content, but thank you for the donations. You definitely didn't have to do that, but thank you very much. I didn't draw too much attention to it during her stream because it was her stream and I felt bad that she was advertising my Streamlabs and not hers, but thank you. I just wanted to say that. Like, I saw them live because I was paying attention. And now I know what the budget is when it comes to getting the outfits proper. But yeah, thank you. It is very appreciated. Okay. I don't think there's any other housekeeping things I need to talk about right this second. So I guess we can just go ahead and get started with the poetry discussion. Or, like, I mean, it's not really gonna be much of a discussion. Honestly, poetry is the genre I am the least comfortable with of, like, the main types of, like, writing genres, which I guess I would categorize as, like, fiction writing. Then there's, like, non-fiction, and then there's script writing, and then there's poetry. I feel like those are kind of the, like, major writing categories, if I had to split them into categories. Technically, there are a lot of, like, sub-types that, like, bleed together. There's, like, lots of them that, like, fuse aspects of other genres as well, or mediums, whatever you want to call it. But poetry has always been my weakest point, and it is thus very difficult for me to talk about it because I do not feel like as much of an authority when it comes to poetry. So I've kind of avoided it up to now, but I guess it makes sense to talk about it. So, it's just difficult to figure out where to start with it, because poetry is actually a lot broader than a lot of people tend to think that it is. Poetry is not necessarily just, like, text that rhymes. It's, like, poetry is just using words in a way that's more creative than the average, like, fiction, like, narrative style. Poetry is just taking the language and, like, really focusing on, like, imagery and, like, being really creative with how you present it. Poetry can be more than just words that rhyme, like I said. It can also be, like, words being, like, portrayed as in, like, different shapes on a page. It can also be written in, like, really abstract formats as well. A lot of, like, poetry chapter books tend to be very experimental with how they present the actual, like, text of their poems. And then sometimes a lot of poems don't have to rhyme, or, like, they rhyme in ways that are, like, non-traditional as well. Like that Japanese type of poetry? Oh, you're talking about haiku? Yeah, kind of. Haiku, I do think, is kind of still, like, I don't want to say expected format, but it's one of the more well-known formats. You're right that it doesn't have to rhyme, though. The only thing about a haiku is that it has to be 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second, and 5 syllables in the third. Poetry is using words. This is so true. Crazy. Is there a particular reason why? A particular reason why I don't feel confident in poetry? I always got really bad grades when we had to submit poetry assignments. No. It's more like, because poetry can be presented literally however, I feel that it gets really difficult to, write a good poem. At least when I was, like, taking courses, you know? A lot of times they would kind of get on the cases of people who just wrote basic poems that rhyme, like A-B, or whatever, A-A-B-B. They wanted things that were, like, more creative, more outside the box, and I had a hard enough time getting ideas for poetry to begin with. I feel like I am my most vulnerable when I write, like, narrative style, like when I write fiction or non-fiction, I suppose. I feel like that's when I get my most vulnerable writing, less so than when I have to, like, spend ages agonizing over metaphors. Or, like, really going hard on personification. There's, like, a lot of, like, artistic elements that go into poetry that I am good at executing when it comes to, like, telling a story, but I am less good when it comes to executing a poem. Haiku are also a significantly more modern concept than people think. This is kind of true as well. I guess, like, in the Western, field of poetry likers, they tend to think that haiku is, like, ancient. How similar is poetry to song lyrics? I would say, like, maybe 60% similar, like 60-40. Like, Song lyrics, at least with how I've been writing them, I always hear the melody first, and then I just put words to the melody. I feel like that's different. Lyrics are a subgenre of, like, the overarching genre that is poetry, but I would not say that they are inherently one and the same. Because it's also technically true that songs don't have to rhyme. I think songs sound better when they do rhyme, but I guess technically they don't have to rhyme. At least, like, English songs. I feel like songs in other languages, they don't really think about rhymes as much. It might just be a specifically English thing where a lot of English song lyrics tend to focus on rhyming in, like, that A-B style. But, like, I still feel like lyrics are kind of, like, separate, at least in my mind. And, like, for me, I have come to discover that it's a lot easier for me to write lyrics for other people. It is very easy for me to write lyrics for, like, other people's vibes, I think. It's easier for me in general to write for other people, I think. When it comes to writing for myself, I tend to be extremely picky. I am so picky with my own stuff. I'm picky with my own fiction, I'm picky with my own non-fiction. I'm just like, I'm constantly redrafting things that I write. It's really bad. Meanwhile, with other people, I feel like I nail it in, like, maybe one take. And then, like, with 2 or 3 revisions, it's usually, like, perfect and I don't have to change anything. I'm just like, cool, perfect, no notes. But then when I'm writing for myself, I'm just like, this sucks. And then I write something else, and I'm like, I guess this is better. And then I come back to it a week later, and I'm like, this sucks. So then I write something else, and then I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then I come back to it a week later, and then I'm like, this sucks. Do you understand? Do you get it? Do you understand? I'm very critical of my own content. This is probably why I don't release a lot of my writing, or a lot of my projects tend to be stuck in work-in-progress hell for forever. Because I'm just so picky. I have such high standards for my own stuff. The lyrics you wrote for Lua were really good. Well, I had a really good base. Lua has talked about this before, so it's okay that I'm talking about it, I think. But, she had, a different set of lyrics at first. But the vibe was just not what she was looking for, so she asked me to kind of, like, change it up so that it was closer to her own vision. So at least for what I wrote for Lua, there was a very solid base already. And it was just me expanding on it and kind of, like, changing it up to be closer to what she wanted, which I feel like is different from writing it entirely from scratch. I do appreciate the compliments, though. But they had a really solid base, so I can't take, like, entire credit. When it comes to you, you put in more work and effort? I would say when it comes to others, I'm able to just pull out my best work. I feel like it's a lot easier that way for me to, like, write for other people. But then when I'm writing for myself, I'm just like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, or I feel like everything I write sounds like a 2-year-old wrote it. At least for me. When you write lyrics, do you hear the beat or instrumental first, or just write what you're feeling? So at least for what I have written so far, it's like, I usually have a bass melody to go off of. I think that's okay to say. Like I said, for Lua's song in particular, for I was about to say Forever Summer. Who? For Endless Summer. There was a bass already. There were already some lyrics that had been written, and there was, like, a bass melody already established. So that's called a top line. What you hear the vocalist singing in the song is called the top line melody. So for that song, the top line was already written. So I heard the instrumental, and I heard the initial demo version with the old lyrics, and I heard the remaining part of the top line that, like, didn't have lyrics to it yet. So then what ended up happening is I took the melody that had already been established, and I was just writing words that fit those, like, note counts. It's called, like, a syllable count, I guess. I call it syllable count when I'm doing trans lyrics, which is all the stuff that I've written for, like, Kaya and Hiyori. For trans lyrics, it's a similar thing, but, like, instead of writing original lyrics, it's taking the song that was written in one language, translating it, and then taking that translation and making it sound more naturally singable for English speakers. So for that, a lot of it is taking the original meaning of, like, the initial lyrics and then trying to make sure that you can convey it in a way that fits the syllable count and also makes more sense as, like, an English song. When you're listening to a top line, it has a certain melody. I guess, like, so, for example, we'll go with Endless Summer, like, the bridge. There's a part that's, like, with every memory we make, this time can't be erased, you know? But, like, when I first got the song, I heard it as do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Like, I hear it as just, like, the notes themselves. And then it's my job to come up with lyrics that fit that, those amount of notes, but also still flow smoothly and make it easy for the person to sing. Because when I say making it singable, you can easily just, like, write whatever you want in that spot, but there are some words that have, like, enunciation. This is where you have to know a lot about the English language for songwriting. But there's just some words that you can't split up that would sound elegant within those notes, you know? I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but multiple syllable words are things that you really have to think about including, because otherwise, you can't get it to sound right. This is turning into a lyric writing stream. Joke's on you, you fell into my trap. Now I don't have to talk about poetry, I can just talk about song lyrics instead. Let's go! This is a victory for me! Forever Bloom and Endless Summer mashup win. I don't even know if those would work as a mashup. Yeah, thinking about it, I don't know if they would work. I'm game for a song lyric session? Maybe. Maybe. I would have to think of something that we could work on. Because maybe I could go through the entire process with you guys one time of, like, writing trans lyrics for a song. Back to poetry. Dang it. Back to poetry. Do beats matter? Yes? It really depends on the kind of poem that you're writing, though. Again, poetry has become very, very abstract as a concept. There's no, like, one right or wrong way to write a poem. Unless you're specifically trying to write a particular style of poem. Because in those cases, yes, there are certain beats that matter. For example, if you were trying to write something more Shakespearean, like a sonnet, you would want something that's in iambic pentameter, which has a certain amount of syllables and emphasis and a certain rhyme scheme to it. There's also, like, limericks that have a very specific rhythm to them. Also a particular rhyme scheme. So I would say sometimes. I do think, though, that rhythm is more flexible than people think it is. When you're first learning iambic pentameter in, like, a high school English class or something, they teach you to read it in that specific way that's like da-da, 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 da-da. Like, they have you, like, actually read it like that so you can count out the syllables properly. But that makes it very obvious that you're reading a poem. When you're actually trying to deliver something like a Shakespearean sonnet or even just, like, Shakespeare in general, you want to try and read it naturally, because if you force the rhythm too much, it kind of just sounds silly. But the rhythm itself is still there, like, within the words themselves. But again, that's kind of where you pay attention to, like, emphasis or enunciation of certain words. That's why in a lot of, like, I guess sticking with the Shakespeare example, certain words will be, like, shortened, or the emphasis will be in kind of a weird spot in order to match the syllable count. So, like, you'll say words in a slightly different way than you normally would in order to get them to fit the syllables. But ideally, when you're actually delivering the writing itself, you just kind of read it naturally. Teachers lied. When we watched the movies, they never talked like that. Exactly. Because you still want it to sound like a human is talking. I used to write a lot of rhymes in my edgy years, could never write non-rhyming poetry. I don't think there's anything wrong with poetry that rhymes. I just think that the genre itself has kind of expanded over time. So now it's less about poetry that rhymes and more so about, just, like, being able to use words in a very vivid, like, artistic way. It's more about stylization and flair. Having a good beat does also help, especially if you're doing something like slam poetry, where the point is to make something that's, like, very dramatic and has a solid beat to it. But also, I wouldn't say that it's, like, a mandatory requirement. It just really helps a poem. I remember nothing of this from school, so I'm gonna need Yuno to teach me everything I forgot. Oh god. I don't know if I could go through the entirety of your high school English classes. I barely remember a lot of them. But, like, I think that a poem, if we're really going to try and sit here and define what makes a good poem, I think that it's mostly just being able to, like, visualize and, like, have a very stylized tone, I would say. It can rhyme, it cannot rhyme. It could have different kinds of rhyme within it. But I think ultimately poetry is one of the more... It's the closest to, like, art, I guess. Not that the other kinds of writing are not art, but I feel like poetry specifically has an emphasis on being a more artistic form of writing. Poems are often just, like, one giant metaphor. Or they'll have a lot of personification, or they'll have a lot of, like, imagery. All those words that they teach you for analyzing poetry, like, it's just, you pick and choose those. But usually a lot of poetry is just one big metaphor. Would you say that rappers, like Eminem in particular, use poetry? Yeah, I do think rap is a form of poetry. I would agree with that. The fact that rapping does have a lot of rhymes, makes it, something that a lot of people would assume is poetry, just like, oh, well, it rhymes, therefore poetry. But I think that, rap has a lot of, like, emotion packed into it as well. That's something else that I notice about poetry, is that, like, not only does it have a unique tone, but it's also able to paint a mood in a very relatable way to a reader, even if it's a feeling that they haven't particularly experienced before. And from what I've seen, a lot of rappers tend to write from personal experiences, and they are able to evoke a lot of really strong images that just, like, manage to resonate with their listeners. I don't listen to that much rap to be able to make, like, a full analysis of it, though. But from what I've seen, of songs that I can remember in my head, of, like, rap songs that I have heard that have gone, like, some form of viral, a lot of them do evoke, like, strong emotional responses through, like, the images that they're able to paint within the lyrics. So I would say it is a form of poetry. But again, that makes it a subsect of lyrics, and lyrics are also a subsect of poetry. So technically, we're just going down a branch of a branch by talking about it, but you are right still. I hope that makes sense. Where do most people's inspiration for poetry come from? Does it depend on the kind that they are trying to write? I think the best poetry either comes from just totally writing something completely like out there, whether it be like fantasy or maybe something that's like meant to be like really vivid, like a dream sequence. I feel like dreams end up being a really good inspiration point for poetry because dreams themselves are so vivid and kind of like, for lack of a better term, trippy. Because I feel like the best poetry is able to like really make you feel something or really make you see something. And dreams are memorable for a reason because you see something that's just so absolutely wild that's why you remember that dream. So I think dreams, I do think lived experiences can also be strong inspiration for poetry because like, if you're talking about something that you very vividly remember, of course that vividness is going to come through when you're writing about it. But then also the emotions that you feel within those situations can end up being like illustrated in a really strong way. And then that leads to, again, like really vivid images. And I feel like that's key for a good poem. I just need poems to make me feel something. I actually watch a lot of like poetry readings, like from more modern poetry authors. I love to watch poetry readings specifically. They're very inspirational to me because I feel like that's like one of the best ways to get the example of how to write a poem that doesn't sound like a poem. Like some people, when they read a poem, they have a very obvious poetry voice. But if you're listening to poets read their own poetry, they're able to deliver it in a way that both feels natural, but also still conveys those images that they want you to like see and feel and experience. I love poetry readings, ironically. Even though I'm not good at writing poetry, I love listening to people read their poetry. And like slam poetry is also something really fun to watch for me as well. I really like seeing people read their work. Live readings are very inspirational. But I would say the biggest examples are like lived experiences or like vivid dreams or like fantasy. I wish I could think of some good examples. There's also these like really cool like duo poems that I've heard read at like poetry readings before. I love those in particular. But I like it when things kind of mirror each other. So I like it when there's two readers or like presenters of a poem and they're like mirroring each other in some way. Mirroring is a really cool narrative technique. In that sense, books are somewhat like poetry since some can bring out different emotions and the inspiration comes from out there places. Kind of, but also no. I get what you're trying to say, but I don't entirely agree with it. Poetry has a different intention and purpose to it than books do. I feel like books are different. There are books of poetry, but I think that like a novel is inherently different from like a series of poems. There are epic poems that are like really, really, really long, basically the length of a novel in themselves. But I think they're still different. If I were to try to articulate that difference, I wouldn't know how to. But I do think they are different. Poetry... It's like, it's in the presentation, I guess? But it's like... How do I word this? I don't know if I can. I don't know, but I really do think that poetry and books are different. Fiction is, like, intended to be different from poetry. I guess because fiction takes you a bunch of different places, I feel that poetry tends to focus on, like, one specific overarching thing. Technically, books also can do the same thing, but it's different with books. I don't know. I can't articulate this very well. I'll see if I can find somebody else who has articulated it better than I have. Poetry versus... We're getting into the argument of poetry versus prose, right? So I guess, one could argue that poetry is never literal, or at least it doesn't try to be as literal as like prose will be. The point of prose is that it wants to get you from point A to point B, and will often do that in a very literal way. It can use more artistic expressions like metaphors and like personification and all of that kind of stuff. But it uses it to a lesser extent than poetry does, whereas the whole point of poetry is to, like, get you to evoke that particular emotion for that particular moment. Poetry tends to capture a moment, while prose wants to take you on an entire journey. There's actually something, I just remembered this because I learned about this before, but Robert Frost, when it came to defining poetry, referred to it as, I found the quote, but I just remembered I did learn about this. But Robert Frost, said, poetry is when an emotion has found its thought, and the thought has found words. So I feel like that's a pretty good way to explain why poetry is different, because it's your emotions that are managing to, like, articulate their thoughts in a way. This is also a form of personification, but something like that. And then I think that prose is, conversely, it's more about ideas or like thoughts that you personally have, and it's less about the emotions behind them, and it's more about just like conveying your thoughts themselves. Would it be unusual to use two different styles of poetry in one poem, alternating per verse? Maybe alternating per verse would be a bit much, but poetry is meant to be a sort of, like, free-for-all. So I don't think it would be necessarily, unusual. It just might be difficult for a reader to fully grasp at first. It depends on how it was portrayed. A lot of these answers are going to be it depends, because poetry is so fucking hard to define. Like, it genuinely is difficult to give you one definitive answer, because a lot of people will think different things. I don't think it's unusual. I'm sure there are plenty of poems that have experimented with that kind of thing before. I can think of a few poems off the top of my head where, like, part of the style was that each line break, the alignment was, like, either to the left margin or to the right margin. So it looked like it was actually being written like a conversation with two completely different writing styles, but if you were to only read the lines that were in the left margin versus the lines that were in the right margin, it would be like you were reading two separate poems. But they were technically still interlinked, and you were, like, reading them at the same time. That's kind of what I mean when I say that poetry is a certain art form. It's like the way that you portray the words on the page means it means almost as much as the words themselves, is what I'm trying to say. It's the presentation and the execution that matters just as much as the actual wordplay. Meanwhile, I find for prose, if you don't present it in a straightforward way, it leads to your reader just being kind of confused about what the story is even supposed to be about. The point of prose is to be as straightforward as possible to convey your story in its entirety, so that a reader can understand it and, like, either agree with you or, like, want to see, like, what your reasoning is for what you're saying. I think is how I would kind of explain it. It's so tough. Poetry has, like, so many different mediums, so many different ways of expressing it. It hurts my brain talking about it for this reason. The form matters. Yeah, exactly. As an editor, working with poetry was some of the hardest editing I've ever had to do. When I worked for a literary magazine, we did have some people submitting poems, but we had to get a separate editor who like specialized in editing poetry because I just did not understand. I didn't know how to edit poetry very well because I was so used to editing like prose. Is there someone you speak with to help with that? Right now, no. I was more so surrounded by other people who would like write prose. I wasn't really close with a lot of people who specialized in poetry specifically. Which is why poetry has continued to remain an enigma to me. I probably should have taken a couple more courses on poetry so that I could have been more well-rounded, but it was always just so difficult. Maybe it's because it was such a vulnerable art form that I never really wanted to pursue it that actively. But yeah. Hanaki. I've dabbled in trying to write poetry. I'm not as bad as I thought I'd be, but still took a while to find a rhythm. Yeah, I find that poetry is kind of the hardest. It's kind of the hardest to like get good at or to like feel that you're good at. I guess because it's the closest to like journaling through more creative lines. Why does the stream title sound like you were forced into this? Again, I said this at the beginning, but like for me, I feel that I am not very good at poetry, and so I do not like trying to present myself as an authority on poetry for that reason. Because I don't feel very good at it, and it's always been something that's difficult for me to fully grasp in my own writing. But I also felt like it wouldn't be fair if I didn't talk about it at some point. Because I've gone over a lot of the other types of genres before. Like, I've gone over fiction. I've gone a little bit into detail about nonfiction. But, like, I kind of tiptoe my way around poetry. And I feel like I should just have at least, like, one stream about it. You want to know what makes a poem so great? The last line. This is true. The last line does have to be pretty impactful for a poem. Trying to find a rhyming scheme that isn't ABC simple, find good words, figure out how to break them and fit the pattern, realize it's trash, cry, try again, no real. I understand. If it helps, I was just explaining how poetry doesn't have to rhyme. Rhyme helps sometimes, but you don't have to make it rhyme. The point is that it just has to have a good creative flow. Flow, I think, is more important for a poem than rhyme. Rhyme, I think, is like the lowest possible priority. If you have a good creative flow, and if you are still able to have like really strong visuals, I don't think it needs to rhyme. But yeah, I think having a really strong finishing line for a poem is much more important versus the finishing line in like a book. Obviously, the last line of a book can still have a lot of impact, but I feel like it doesn't matter as much as the overall experience of going through the story that the narrative prose presented. Meanwhile, with a poem, each line kind of has to have a certain amount of impact. You want, like, as much of the poem as possible to resonate with your reader. Everything should kind of have an emotional draw to it. Trying to apply a non-rhyme is a complete game changer, and I'm too baby to try to learn that. Understandable. I get it. Personally, I found it easier to write poetry when I realized it didn't have to rhyme. But, like, I still don't think I'm good at it. I still don't think I'm good at it at all. Roses are red, violets are blue, Bruno is a cutie, and this doesn't rhyme. I love that for you. But yeah, for me, once I realized that a poem didn't have to rhyme, I felt way less constrained. But it depends on the style. If there are certain styles that have been established in the poetry sphere that would like require rhymes, so it would kind of make sense to make sure that you kept the rhyme scheme. But nowadays, I find that a lot of modern poetry doesn't even rhyme that much. But poetry really is such an enigma. It's very hard to, like, it's hard to figure out, like, what specific point to talk about with poems. It's a lot more straightforward with, like, narrative prose, and, like, most other forms of prose, too. But poetry is, like, so distinct from prose for a reason. I think I would need to research other non-rhyming poetry to even understand the remaining rules. But that's the thing! Poetry doesn't really have rules. There are structures that you can follow, but a lot of times some good poetry comes from like having a structure and then breaking it. Man. And now you guys understand why I wasn't really sure about if I was ever going to discuss poetry. Because discussing poetry is just such an enigma in and of itself. It's still like a really fun like form though. I love reading it. And like I was saying before, I like listening to other people read their own poems. I just, when it comes to me writing it and like me understanding it, I'm just like, bro, there's literally so many angles you can take. It's like with art, you learn rules and anatomy of the body in order to break the rules and make your own style. Yeah, something like that. You could say the same thing about prose, too. Like, you can learn, like, conventional structure and then, like, purposefully try to break that structure. All good art is able to take, like, a base idea or, like, base understanding of thing and then break it to, like, develop something kind of new. Although it's also fun to stick to structure, but still make something really unique. It can go both ways. I'm trying to think of examples of poems that we could like talk about so you could understand more of what I mean, but it's difficult to think of what kind of poems to share. It's either like classic literary poems versus more modern poems, or like focusing purely on the modern and just trying to find really abstract poems. I don't know. I don't do well without structure of some kind, so I need to learn some kind of framework to have a guide. I can usually find my way through something as long as I have some kind of handhold. I see. I kind of get what you mean. I had that issue when it came to writing poetry, too. I felt like it was almost too expansive. That there were almost too many options. Hard to think of poetry without bringing up actual pieces. Exactly. Like, I feel like unless I show you what I mean, it won't make sense. Well, I guess since we talked about him, let's bring up the famous Robert Frost poem. This poem is infamous. Wait. Oh dear. Did this version not finish downloading then? Oh, well, I'm gonna have to fix that later. Anyway. Sorry, I was downloading a picture of the roads for analysis, and then I saw that there was a download that didn't finish earlier, and that's a bit concerning, but that's okay. Just means I might have to fix something later. It'd be like that sometimes. Okay. I think I saved it here. Oh. Yeah, very ope moment indeed. Okay. So this is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. This is a very famous, very straightforward poem, ironically, all things considered. A lot of English courses will teach you poetry using this poem, among a few others. But, like, this poem is very infamous for a reason. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood and looked down, one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. But it's basically, like, this poem is, like, talking about how there's one path that's been traveled by many people, and, like, everything's been, like, trampled down because so many people have taken it so many times. And then there's another one where... There's another path, I should say, where it's very obvious that nobody has taken it, and, like, everything's, like, fresh and green and untouched. And the idea is, like, if you go down that particular path, it would probably be a lot harder to find your way back because you are the only one that has walked in that direction. And then, of course, the most infamous part of this poem is the ending stanza, which is, I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So it's that whole, like, forge your own path. Don't go down the path that everybody else went down. It's like, be yourself, be independent, be a free thinker, yada yada. But that's why this poem's really popular. They will teach this one for basic, like, poetry analysis in a lot of, like, high school English courses. This is a very basic structure. It's got basic rhymes. We've got, like, A, B, in one of the stanzas, for example. But this is how poems, like, look in the most, like, traditional basic form. In a form that rhymes, in a form that has very clear basic stanzas. And then I guess I will try and find an example of a more creative looking poem. I'm looking for a good example, hold on. Sure, let's do something like this. Let me see if I can find the source for this particular poem. When you can't find the actual source and you have to Google the line to get the source. It really do be like that sometimes. Sympathy from Paul Laurence Dunbar is one of my favorites. Understandable. Oh, okay. So this is from... Let me save it. That's me looking up a song but only having one line from the chorus. No, same. I feel you. Okay. WebP! WebP hatred. You are going to become a PNG whether you like it or not. No WebP. Okay, so now we're looking at a different poem. This is from the poetry book The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. Where do all the memories go? The ones we hide away with lock and key, yet continue to shape us all the same. Did it really happen if I can't remember it? Now see, the reason this one is considered creative is because it's talking about memories that get locked away with lock and key, and the words themselves are arranged on the page to look like the keyhole of a door. Like, the words themselves are the barrier that is preventing the memories from being accessed. So it serves as both a creative way to showcase the words on the page while also relating to the meaning of the poem itself. Do you understand? I always enjoy poems that have shapes like this. This is what I mean when I say that poetry, it's less about rhyming and it's more just like the presentation. This poem does have a bit of rhyme, but like, it's still showing you a very creative presentation of it. Literal and figurative, like you said earlier. Yeah, something like that. The whole point of poetry is that it's meant to, like, evoke that, like, feeling or that sensation. A lot of people can relate to the idea of having memories that you can't access once they're, like, locked away because your brain doesn't want you to remember. But you have that desire to know all the same. But even if you have the knowledge that this thing happened, the question that's being posed here is, did it really happen if I can't access those memories? If I can't unlock the door that those memories are supposedly locked behind, then are they really there at all? Schrodinger's memories, if you will. But it really helps hammer in the idea by having it be presented in this way. I need to buy more poetry books. I'd love to, like, experience more modern poetry in this way. But stuff like this is kind of why a lot of modern poems have taken a more creative look to them, kind of. That's one of the more common, like, examples of ones that look kind of different from a typical poem. Yeah, see, it's a very relatable feeling, and it's just portrayed even further with that, like, visualization of the keyhole. That's the kind of poetry I tend to prefer. I don't mind classic poems, but I tend to prefer the more creative books that exist nowadays. Like, the more modern poems tend to appeal to my senses a little bit more. The stream is out of my time zone, so good night, you know, in chat. Okay, sleep well. I'm probably not gonna go for that much longer anyway, but yeah. As we can see, there are a lot of ways that you can present your poetry. It can be straightforward too. There's nothing inherently wrong with like the straightforward, like structured poem. But for me, I just really like the more creative ones. Perhaps as a reader, maybe less so as a writer. I wanted to practice more poetry through having one of my characters write poetry meant for song. I don't know what you call those ones. Aren't those just lyrics? I do think I know what you're talking about. There is technically a slightly different genre where, like, it's a poem that's meant to be sung. Let me see if I can find the word. That is called Taylor Swifting. I had a like 2 to 3 stanza written somewhere. For the life of me, can't recall where I wrote them. Oh no, it'd be like that. Like a bard. Bards often do like limericks and ballads. I would say that it's true that those ones can be sung. But you're right, bards do a lot of presentation of poetry, often to music. But those are still forms of like lyrical poetry. It could also be called an art song in certain contexts. Lyric poetry tends to be really short, but it's still set to music. Could also be considered an ode. We have a refrain, which is a line or lines that are repeated regularly within a song. Things like that. I was about to call it barding, but that's not the name of the style. Yeah, I think it's lyric writing. An ode? Okay. Makes sense. So odes are usually dedicated to specific things or like events. Or it also could just be considered like a private reflection on a certain thing or event. Odes are usually long and complex though. They cover a bunch of things but are still like an ode to one particular like base concept. They're usually inspired by one thing, but it kind of leads to like a dramatic monologue of sorts that is still kind of sung. Can go either way. Wasn't there a character in Caillou that was known to like write odes? This is a very random memory I just had. I have to see if I'm right about this. Yes! It was the cat. Did you guys remember that Caillou used to have freaking puppet segments? And it wasn't always just about this child being a little gremlin? Mine is a little fuzzy on it. Been a good decade or so. I mean, same. But when I think of the word ode, I think about that cat. Because his whole thing was that he would just make odes to like random, like very basic concepts. like an ode to fish food or something else silly. The refrain was gonna go something like, we toil and strife in this kingdom of strife, and something else, because my book's title is gonna be Kingdom of Strife. You see it. That's not bad. I do think you should maybe consider a different word besides strife, so you're not saying strife twice. I get what you're getting at. But I do think that, like, the lines themselves could be a lot stronger if you didn't use strife twice. Ode to thighs, you know what? Fair. The lines could be stronger if I actually remembered or found what I wrote. I mean, this could just be a sign that you have to rewrite them. If you can't find them now, I think this is a sign that you have to rewrite it, unfortunately. And you might be better for it by, like, retooling it and writing it in a place that's probably, like, better storage. I only keep, like, one physical notebook on me, because I know that I am very prone to forgetting where I wrote things. So if I only have, like, the one notebook, I'm just like, it's either in here or it's in my digital files somewhere, because the only other place I write is on my computer. I used to write, like, quick little things on my phone, but I don't really do that anymore. The only other thing I write on my phone is my dream journal, which is on my Yuno only server. That's the only other thing that I write in a place that's not, like, actual, like, on my PC anymore, because I'm a much faster typer than I am a handwriter. Also, my handwriting very quickly devolves into nonsense when I'm writing by hand, because my brain tends to think faster than my hand can keep up with, and it just leads to scribbles. The fabled unicorn, indeed. The N doubled also bugs my brain. You could just restructure the sentence itself. In this kingdom of strife, we'd suffer and toil or something. Like, if you're worried about words that rhyme with strife, you could just change it so that it's a different rhyme, and then you could make it be something with, like, foil or soil. Something like that. Baleful life? True. It's okay. It'll work out. I do also feel the sympathy of losing where you initially wrote it, especially if you thought it was really good, but this is why you gotta be careful. You can't just be writing things in random places. You gotta have controlled areas. Us writers, if we don't have controlled areas for where we're writing all of our stuff, we're never gonna find any of our drafts. It's just not gonna happen. That's why I keep all of the stuff that I actually really like organized in my Google Drive, and then the only reason I use my phone for writing is for my dream journal, because my phone is the closest thing to me when I wake up. And I really only have the one physical notebook when I actually have that urge to write physically, which is very rare. Because usually anything that I write in my notebook, I am not able to read later, because my handwriting is so bad. But, you know, controlled areas. It's better that way, I promise you. I keep a notebook of interesting phrases when I think of them. Ooh, that's useful. I probably would do something like that too if I could actually read my handwriting. I think I used to take notes on my phone's notes app for, like, interesting lines of dialogue I would overhear when I would do my, like, people observations. When I would eavesdrop, when I would be, like, sitting in a cafe or whatever and I'd hear something interesting, I would sometimes write it down there, but, you know. I thought I copied it elsewhere, but the brain do be silly sometimes. So true. I have done that to myself too many times to risk it anymore. I'm always so careful. I have to keep my best writing in a place where I can easily access it. I put notes in my phone, but I also keep sketchbooks around for the art ideas. I think it's different with art, maybe. But I feel like at least with writing, it can be very easy to forget where I wrote something down. At least with, like, a drawing, I feel like I'd be able to spot it out of the corner of my eye a lot faster. Spying conversations is risky? Not really. It's very rare that the person that you're eavesdropping on would actually end up picking up the book that you wrote that has that line of dialogue in it. It's also especially rare that they would remember that they were the one that said it. As long as you don't copy an entire conversation word for word, it's fine. In my opinion, it's fine. I think that the world is far too big for those sorts of coincidences to happen too consistently. But I do agree that you shouldn't completely copy something. Because there have actually been nightmare scenarios of people who, like, find out that, like, aspects of their life were used by their author friend to tell a story, and then it was, like, without their consent. There was this, I think it was an Am I the Asshole post or something? I don't remember. But I vaguely remember seeing that there was someone who was like, am I the asshole for, like, using my friend as inspiration for a story but not telling them? Which, like, yes, inherently you are. Because you're taking someone's real, actual life and you're using it in your novel for profit, I would assume, because you think it's a profitable story to tell, and that's gross. You don't do that without explicit permission. But that's if you're telling, like, the entire, like, lived experience of a person. If you're taking just, like, one line from a random conversation you overheard, I think that's fine. At least tell them. Not even tell them. You have to get, like, express permission for that kind of thing. Especially if it's going to seem in any way biographical. We sow this soil with blood and tears, through heartache, woe, and fears. This kingdom of strife, though glory sullied, we shall see it fully restored. It's far more simple than what I remember doing before, but sounds like a decent start. I'll work on it more. Yeah, that sounds like a decent start to me. I believe in you. You got this. Manifesting success. Unintentional rhyme? I wouldn't be surprised if it was intentional. Because it sounded like the initial draft had rhyme in it. Looking over them, most of the things I wrote are short and sound like proverbs. Safety standards are written in blood from when I worked in a mechanic shop. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Proverbs can still be inspirational for a lot of writing. Believe in the Buno that believes in you. Exactly. Your ode is the ode that will pierce the heart of the reader. Or something. Man. It really has been like forever since I've tried to write a poem. I guess the lyrics that I've been writing are the closest that I've gotten. Especially because a lot of them do rhyme, or like I endeavor to make them rhyme. But it's been a long time since I've gone out of my way to like write a poem. I wonder if I should challenge myself to do that more often. Get out of my comfort zone with my writing a little bit. The apple never falls far from the tree. Alas, there are such things as cliffs. Oh, interesting. I like the imagery of that, kind of. I feel like that could be a really good, like, bitter poem if you were going to take it into a poetry thing. Can always write one and share it with members. Blech. And then you guys would be like, ah, yeah, you are bad at poetry. And I'd just be like, never again. Never again. No, I don't think you guys would be that mean. I'm joking. I would be that mean to myself, though. I would post it for members, and then it would disappear within, like, a week because I didn't like it anymore. And you guys would be like, Yuno, where did the poem go? And I'd be like, it was trash. What poem? We can all be bad at poetry together because I'll rip apart my own stuff even harder. Same. I am my own worst critic because I suck. I feel like my writing self and my editing self are constantly at odds with one another because I will like write and be creative and I'll be like feeling myself in the moment, and I think that the writing turns out really good because I was like really feeling it. But then I look at it later when the editor brain is on and I'm just like, what is this garbage? What is this straight stinky trash? And it's rough. It's rough out here. No, you use ChatGPT. Disappointed. Disappointed, 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 disappointed. I think editor Buno needs a steady supply of stickers. You might be partially right, I suppose. Too hard on writer, you know, just expressing herself. Not judging, but judging. It'd be like that. Was curious on your perspective on that. Thank you for clarifying. I feel like ChatGPT is... I get why people use it. I don't like it when they use it for writing. Just like... I feel like if you use it for inspiration, that's one thing. But I feel like if you then take whatever the AI spits out and then you're like, I wrote this. Then I hate it. Then I can't stand it. IDK what ChatGPT actually is. It is a AI chatbot that you can ask, presumably, any question, and it will give you an answer. And the point is that it's programmed to try and sound a little bit more human than an ordinary chatbot would. But you can, like, ask it a bunch of questions about a bunch of topics, and it will generate things for you. And a lot of students have taken to using it to generate answers for their essays and for, like, homework assignments. Because you could technically be like, hi ChatGPT, write me an essay about the difference between prose and poetry. Include references to Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, and an example of a modern poem for comparison. And the AI will be like, okay, and then it'll spit out some freaking basic-ass essay. And then a person will just copy-paste it and be like, my essay, I wrote this. Because they think that since they were the one that generated that particular response, they wrote the prompt, they think that that means that they own the thing that got generated, which is not true. That's not how that works at all. And it also always comes out, like, very basic, and, like, there's not a lot of depth. It's always going to be very surface level writing, unfortunately. Anyway, I'm not gonna complain too much about AI. I'll be right back. I gotta go take care of a thing.
An offering. Thank you so much.
you found the document? Nice. Hell yeah. I love this for you. Let me back read a little bit. Me who uses ChatGPT to write emails to all my clients all day long. Ugh, bad. Bad and lazy. Do your job. Write your emails. I know it can be repetitive and frustrating, but you shouldn't be using AI for that. That's just proof that the AI can replace you. If your job realizes that you have been using ChatGPT to generate emails, they'll be like, oh, okay, then that means we can use ChatGPT. Because ChatGPT is basically free, so we don't need you anymore. Just as a warning. Because that's what's happening with this AI uprising. As an AI language model by Nissan, I cannot comply with this request. Yeah, though, it's rough. I'll be a professional AI commenter. No! Not like this! I'd forgotten I'd also practiced writing a romantic poem and I want to show it to you. Oh! That's fun. I mean, I do have a tag specifically for writing that a lot of people don't use. The last time it was used was during my, like, what? 1 month? 2 months? I think was the last time someone wrote it. Anyway. If you use the hashtag Yuno Notes on Twitter, I will see it. You can put writing there if you would like. When they go link up the chain and show them how my bosses work picked up by AI. The whole company goes under because ChatGPT is just doing all of it now. Woof. A lawyer tried to use ChatGPT to help with his case, and the AI hallucinated fake cases and rulings, so it's not a good idea to replace someone with ChatGPT. Exactly. But, you know, I was being facetious when I made the comment. I'm not saying it's literal. However, the more people use ChatGPT to do their jobs, the more likely the language learning is going to become more advanced over time. They do have people that specifically are like working to refine the AI so that it stops doing things like hallucinations and can start giving you more accurate information. Slow and steady. Is there a specific form you wanted in? Can I link the Google Doc I wrote it? If you're okay with the link being accessible to other people who look at the tag, sure. Most other people that have written things just, like, post them as images. And then I just, like, read the image or, like, the screenshot or what have you.
Thank you so much.
So, I guess that would be another option. Oh, Feral Dragon, thank you for the $20. Technically 25 since you missed the 5 earlier. Oh, I totally did. Thanks for the knowledge. Thank you! Also, in case you guys didn't see, the daily goal is different now. This was a suggestion from management. But they feel that it might be better for me to let you guys choose your rewards for meeting the daily goals. It's something that can be discussed if the daily goal is met consistently. It's not always going to be voice packs now. It can be if it's what you guys continue to want, but, something that was specifically suggested was that you guys get to choose a stream, that I have to put into my schedule after you guys meet it. I thought I heard baby goal. Baby goal? No, thank you. Anything within reason, I should hope. But basically, anything, I suppose, yes. Baby Buno, do you want the baby to teach you poetry? She mostly only knows nursery rhymes. Another teaching stream. If it's what you wanted, you guys would be able to pick the subject too, I guess. Actually, I should change the phrasing of this to specify that it's a stream. Choose a stream. Do we get to force you to buy a specific costume from the store? Yes? That would be fine too. You could also force a specific type of like stream, like a roleplay one, where I would need to get a specific costume. You know, streaming a scary game. You could also decide that. Hopefully you understand my taste in horror games by now, though. So we don't get another Resident Evil. Turtle, you know, does it go? I guess? I would still have to figure out an actual outfit for that. Ultimate game roleplay? That could be pretty funny. I think members should probably choose. Nah. Since this is a public goal, anyone can choose, as long as they're like a subscriber. What's going to happen with this, for those of you that need to understand, kind of like what the vibe is here. You have to meet the exact daily goal, 5 times in a row. If you overkill it, it does not count. Offline donations also do not count. So, basically, once you get to 100, that counts as meeting the goal once. If you do it again the next day, that counts as meeting it twice in a row. If you don't meet it the second day, though, the count restarts back at 0. But if you're able to do it 5 days in a row, like 5 days of getting the daily goal, then you will be able to choose a stream. And I'll probably discuss it. Like, I'll have options on, like, the community tab. I'll be like, here, this is where you submit ideas for what you want to see me stream. Like the ones that you like. Similar to how I've done some of my other, incentives before. So you can comment what you want to see, and then you can also give likes to the other comments that are on that post. I'll narrow some down, and then I'll actually have you guys properly choose in a later stream, and then we will have a dedicated slot on the schedule for the Damarachi's Choice stream. And then whatever the choice ends up being is what that will be. Make sense? That is how this will work. But yes, technically it can be anything. It can be horror, it could be a roleplay stream, it could be a teaching stream, it could be literally whatever. It's all based on what you guys want to suggest. I know you guys all have like a ton of different tastes and a ton of different things that you like, but we can't say we choose that one Shiicho stream. I don't know what you're talking about, so that would be a bit difficult to choose. Yes. But no, this allows you to choose. But obviously, I would like it if it's within reason. You guys, I feel like you should know my boundaries, sort of, by now. So hopefully you wouldn't choose anything that's too crazy for me. But I am open. I will allow you to, like, suggest whatever it is you want to suggest. But it's only if you're able to meet the goal consistently. But that's gonna kind of be what it is from now on. I won't suggest something like boba pizza, thank you. I'm new, so no, but I also won't test boundaries too hard. I appreciate that. We will pick a nice and wholesome ultimate fixed dramatical murder. I don't know if I would be allowed to play dramatical murder just by nature of how kawaii is. I might have to ask if that ended up being something that won. But also, I've already played dramatical murder, so That's not necessarily something I'm against. It's more that something that I have to make sure is okay with, like, management and, like, streaming permissions. But I've played Dramatical Murder. I played it before it got an official localization. I'm in the trenches. Looking at the rules gives an impression of what would be suitable. Sort of, yeah. Or just like the general vibe of my streams. So you're saying there's a chance. I mean, I won't deny it. A lot of visual novels, though, are a little bit difficult with streaming permissions, though. Isla played Yumi and her on stream uncensored and the VOD got deleted as soon as the stream ended. Oh, Isla-sama. That's fair. I guess I would probably just have to delete the VOD if I did get permission somehow. That would probably have to be an age-gated stream. Like how Resident Evil had to be. I would probably just have to, like, explicitly age-gate that one. I was going to say you're crazy, but I went through every clan ad route and all 21 school days endings. That's fair. You can stream anything if you do it when John YouTube is asleep and delete before he wakes up. So true. If John YouTube doesn't catch it, then it's fine. For obvious reasons, this is a joke. Please don't actually smite me, Mr. YouTube. I am joking. This is for funny sillies. It would be like it never happened. Exactly. If there's no evidence, it didn't happen. If you never plan to play it yourself, I'd suggest playing Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. What is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes? Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Oh! No. I did actually want to play this one. Because I like the studio that made it. Simigo were the same people that made Sayonara Wild Hearts. So this is actually on my list of games I want to play. I do want to play this one, actually. A solo tabletop RPG playthrough might be interesting. Ooh, I do have a few playbooks for those. I do have a few of those games saved. So that could be an option. You are correct. If it is a poll, I think it's going to be more fair if it's archived since it's Tamagotchi's choice. No Dramatical Murder for now. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe once I pass the anniversary mark, you guys will start asking for more unarchived things, but... Like I said, if the goal's met, I will have a community tab post where you can make your choices, and then we'll narrow it down from there. But it really can be just about anything. But it's only if you're able to meet the daily goal 5 times in a row. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay. Well, we have immediately stopped talking about poetry, but I think we were able to have a solid enough discussion. I know you're pretty bad already with horror, but how about an RPG Maker horror game? RPG Maker would probably be fine. The problem is that I've played a lot of them already. At least, like, the older ones. Like, I've played Ibu. I've played Ibu before. I am familiar with, like, Al Oni. I am familiar with that one as well. I vaguely know about Mad Father. I never actually played that one, so it might be the one I would have to play if we did that. I've never actually played Mad Father, but I know about it. But yeah, I'm like a little bit familiar with RPG Maker horror games. And I actually have games like Yomawari in my Steam library for eventual play. Maybe. Because management still really wants me to play horror games. Still, somehow, despite all of my desire to not, they are constantly like, play horror. Man.
That's more than I anticipated. Thank you.
Oh my! Feral Dragon, thank you for the $75 to get the ball rolling. So that means you're at 1. Let's go, team. We'll turn Yuno into a horror streamer. No, you won't. No, you won't. No, you will not. But I appreciate the energy, I guess. The ball is rolled. Let's go. Looking for group. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. One step closer. Yeah, you just gotta do it for 4 more streams. It's okay. But no, I am open to playing horror games. I have a couple that I feel like I could maybe stomach that are already like in my library, so the option is there. It's just a matter of seeing what the people want. Because the point of this goal is that it's something that everybody kind of collectively wants. I'll be looking at the options that have the most likes when it comes to narrowing down for the poll. So. But I'm not going to become a full horror streamer. I don't care how much the people want that genre to be put on me. But that's not happening. I have niches that I want to target. It's not horror. But I will play horror games if it somehow wins the Dominachi's choice. The no-go with horror stuff is zombie and baby stuff. Basically, I guess. I'm okay with more like atmospheric and like supernatural, like fantasy horror. If it's 2D, that's probably even better. The 3D graphics, like the more realistic the graphics, the more it'll cause me. I can guarantee you that much. Oh, good night. Rest well. Thank you for the flowers, too. But yeah, if it's a more realistic, like 3D graphical horror experience, I probably will not like it, and I will scream and cry and explode. But if it's like 2D horror, or if it's something that's kind of more like fantasy and like less realistic, more like that kind of vibe, it's probably easier to stomach. Detention was kind of like that for me, I think. Like, there was a part of it that was very scary when it was like in the more realistic vibes. But when we got to that one, like, psychedelic dreamlike section, I was not nearly as scared. I was way more chill. Like Minecraft. Minecraft is the true horror game experience. Although I don't know what I'd be more scared of, Minecraft or Roblox. Both are pretty scary, I think. Outlast sounds more like your speed. Outlast? I don't know about that. I do not know about that one. Can we expect this in October? Aren't Oni supposed to be stronger and braver in October? I don't know. I might play a couple more horror games in October than I would normally. But October is also the Hanamizuki anniversary, so maybe don't kill me on our anniversary month. Maybe don't try to kill me on the anniversary month, please. Please, either of those. Scream and cry in one stream. Tell me more. No! I'm good. I do not wish to scream and or cry ever, to be honest with you. You won't be killed if you die. No, I'm pretty sure I will still die. Demons don't get scared. So true. We could do a horror movie watch along around October though. Oh, I actually don't mind horror movies. I know that's very funny considering I said I don't like horror games, but horror movies actually aren't that bad. What Japanese horror movie will we watch in October? I don't know. Actually, I'm actually not super familiar with Japanese horror movies. Maybe I'll ask for some recommendations from management. If they have English subtitles, then I'll see if there's any options. Is it because you don't have to put yourself in the character's shoes? Maybe. I don't know. I just feel like the experience is a lot easier if I'm just watching. It's like how I can watch people play horror games, but I can't actually play them myself. I think I crumble under pressure of playing too easily. When I'm actually playing it, I crumble. But if I'm watching somebody else play, it's a lot easier to stomach. How about the idea of trying something like an action game like Hades since you beat Transistor before? I could try Hades, I suppose. I've never played it myself. I've watched other people play. Never played it myself. But maybe. Again, it's really all going to depend on what gets chosen. I'm glad you guys already have ideas and you have things that you'd like to see. But right now at least, a lot of this doesn't particularly matter until you actually reach the goal. I can watch people play horror games all day, but I refuse to play even a single horror game. No, I get you. Some games I think are easier to play than others, but like, I do think it's just easier for me to watch horror. I don't know. Makes you wonder how you would react playing something like Until Dawn, which is basically like an interactive movie. Until Dawn isn't scary. That series of games, they're not scary. They're just silly teen dramas. It's like I'm watching Teen Wolf. Those are not scary to me. If anything, I would just be critiquing how bad the writing is. Sorry. Sorry if you like those games. Sorry. But also, the writing is abysmal. The writing is abysmal and bad, and I would be spending the entire time ribbing on it. So... there's that for you. The goal has to be met 5 times in the stream, or do offline donos count? Offline donations do not count. You have to meet the minimum goal of 100 for 5 separate streams, basically. It doesn't have to be like for example, if there's a time where I can't stream, like if I were to cancel stream tomorrow, for example, I would not immediately make it so that you lost your streak. Does that make sense? It's only for, like, streams that are, like, actually scheduled and happening on my channel. But it does have to be in a row, basically. Like, as close to in a row as possible for, like, streams that happen on my channel. You can still donate within a stream, but that won't count towards the next goal. So, like, for example, since we already hit 100, if someone were to donate another 100, that would not automatically put you at 2 streams. It would just mean that today you gave me 200. It's to encourage donations over the course of multiple streams. You know? Does this make sense? That's kind of the vibe. My suggestion will be other room watch along. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. I haven't actually watched the whole thing, but I've seen that clip over and over. It's very funny. Can't cheat the system? You cannot. Thank you for asking, but you cannot. I thought it meant it would be lost based on how it was explained earlier. No, no, no. It would never truly be lost. It's just that it wouldn't count towards day 2. Chirp, chirp, chirp. But yeah, that is how it will work. I'm glad you guys have your ideas. The flat 500 unlocks it too. I never decided that. Although I guess that's true. If we did somehow get a 500 dono, I would probably just sit here and be like, I guess I have to give it to you now. Just because that would be... that would be a bit wild. Anyways, these are all things we can discuss at a later date. For now, though, I am going to go ahead and call it here for now. Tomorrow is our members-only stream. We will be playing golf with your friends again. Hopefully, my PC will not explode, but unfortunately, I am still having problems with it crashing. So there's a chance that golf with your friends might make it crash again. But, I'm going to try and fix it. There's something I'm thinking about trying to see if maybe it'll help, but, I don't know if it's going to. So there's a chance that golfing might still make my PC crash and I might still blue screen, but, we will see. Don't call it crashing with friends! Don't do that! But no, I really am hoping that it's not gonna, cause issues. Bigger PSU or better GPU? I don't know enough about tech. I'm sorry. I don't know which one it would be in this case, but it does seem to be related to, like, graphical intensity, I think. So it's probably something with the GPU. Because the blue screen that happened last time, it was, like, hanging on the blue screen for, like, 5 whole minutes. Well, actually, it didn't actually show the blue screen. It was just hanging on where it froze for, like, 5 straight minutes. And then it turned blue with the same graphic error as before. And it said it was a watchdog violation. So... smile. You can pull up Task Manager and see what's working hard. I checked the event viewer and it didn't tell me anything besides the fact that it was a watchdog violation. It showed, like, no error at all. It did not tell me what was causing the crash. Just that it crashed. All it said was, like, your PC shut down unexpectedly. And that was a bit frustrating, because I couldn't pinpoint what the issue was. It was very frustrating. Corrupted drivers? It shouldn't be, because the last time I had a crash, I literally fresh installed my graphics driver. I, like, uninstalled it and then reinstalled it. So it's like a fresh version of my graphics driver. So I'm not sure if it's an issue with the drivers. But, like, I really don't know. I can't really give you a lot of information because my freaking task viewer didn't give me any information. I wish I could give you more, stuff about it so we could see if it could get diagnosed. But unfortunately, I really don't know. All I know is that it crashed when I tried to play Pummel Party. All of my crashes seem to happen when I'm playing, 3D games? If that makes any sense? I guess besides, like, Star Rail. When I play Star Rail on my PC, I don't usually have issues with crashing. I don't know. I don't know. Do you have certain settings turned on? Windows has a tendency to overwrite drivers? I wouldn't know what those settings would be. I would have to look into that, I guess. Do you have an antivirus program to scan for rootkits or viruses? I do have an antivirus program, but the last time I checked, I didn't see any viruses. So I don't know. I wish I knew more about technology, but unfortunately I feel like my problem is very, very niche. And I don't know if any of the girls have ever had issues with something like this before either, so I don't really want to bother them with my very vague lack of understanding. The normal uninstaller for graphics drivers doesn't actually move all of the files. There's a lot of remnants still on there, so you need a tool to get rid of everything. I did! I did do that. I did use a special tool. Yes. I used, I guess to, like, prove it. I used, what was it called again? DDU? Yeah. DDU. That's what I used last time. Nennis has had issues in the past, might be worth it to ask in Slack, maybe. I don't know. Again, I still don't know if anybody would really be able to help. I don't know. We will see, though. This will really be the test, though. If I play golf with your friends again and my computer freaking decides to perish, it's Jover. Especially if she's getting watchdog issues. Yeah, it expressly says that it's always like a watchdog violation. DPS watchdog. And I can't... Like, the event viewer doesn't tell me what caused it, just that it happened. So, like, I can't pinpoint if there was, like, some sort of, like, specific issue. Before, it was easy to pinpoint that it was an issue with, like, plugging in my controller. And then it was also easy to pinpoint that it was something with, like, that particular Windows update. But, like, it's not. It's really hard to pinpoint now. The way the error happens makes it seem like it's related to my graphics, like my graphics card, but I don't know. Honestly, it could just be the fact that everything got corrupted because of how often I was crashing before, even though I fixed the issue that was making it crash before. Because isn't it like something, the more your computer crashes, the more likely it is to just crash whenever now? Like, the more you blue screen, the more likely blue screens are to happen type beat. I don't know. We need to look up logs, but I did. What I'm telling you is I looked at the log. I used the event viewer. I had all the filters on to try and find the issue, and none of them had the issue. None of them had it. I'm telling you I did. I'm doing the best I can. Do you know if your PC is overclocking itself? Wouldn't it tell me if something was overclocking? I will say that I usually don't know when a crash is coming. It usually just surprises me. It's almost always when I am playing a 3D graphics heavy game. Well, maybe not graphics heavy. That's probably the wrong word. But it's usually if I'm playing a 3D game, because the times it's happened before have been during Crab Game, Golf with Your Friends, Pummel Party. It's usually when I'm playing those kinds of games. Also, it happened with, Lottle Knot, which was also kind of 3D. You can reset to default settings in the BIOS if you're worried about overclocking. Maybe. I'd have to figure out how to do that. Anyway. Online games? A lot of online games, Lottle Knot is not an online game, but it happened during Lottle Knot too. Wonder if management offers tech support? No. I can tell you right now, no they don't. No, they do not. We are on our own with a lot of that stuff. Well, maybe I'll see about resetting the iOS, perhaps. I'll look into it. It might be a good thing to do just as a preventative measure. Via tech support. I don't know if Nami can help me. There's a lot of articles about this online and tutorial videos you can look into if you search that error code. Okay, but like watchdog violations are so... They could be caused by literally anything. It could be either... Like the tech friends that I have had help me with things have been like, saying that it could be caused by literally anything. I've heard of overclocking accidentally tripping due to certain programs arguing with the graphics card. Maybe. But yeah, I appreciate the help and the advice. I'll look into it some more. Hopefully we'll be able to figure it out before golf with your friends. Worst comes to worst, if I crash during golf with your friends again, then I'm probably going to have to look into sending my PC into a repair shop. Which I can't really afford right now, but I gotta do it because I need to work, so... we'll see what happens. I wonder if this will be a problem when you get your 3D model. It probably will, because if it's 3D and that ends up being quite graphics heavy, it probably will cause problems. Fly Nami over. No. I am not flying Nami to Onigashima. I'm good, thank you. But no, I'll figure it out. Thank you though, guys. Anyway, like I was saying, I should probably end stream now. I do have work I have to finish. I promised management that I would have certain things finished by today, and they are not done yet. They're almost done, but I have to finish a little bit more. So I want to go and focus on that, and then, yeah. But I just want to let you know that tomorrow is Members Gaming. Hopefully, golf with your friends will behave for me. We will see. Plane ticket donathon? No, I'm good. Well, thank you guys so much for choosing to spend time with me. I hope that you have a good rest of your time zone. And until I see you again, Yunotsu!